Well, it looks like he's given up. Let's begin. Well, of course, Rishi Sunak emerged from Downing Street with his new approach to protect the beloved hard-pressed British families from those pesky unacceptable costs. The audience, of course, gasped as he revealed his first grand act, a delay for 5 years on the ban of new diesel and petrol cars. Yes, that's right, those fossil-fuelled beauties will have an extended lease of life, revving their engines in defiance of a green transition. But that's not all, because he continued with the loosened targets to phase out gas boilers, those loyal champions of British households, and instead of the immediate boiler overhaul, people will only need to replace them when it's naturally time, which is how it should have been in the first place, in my opinion. And even then, not until 2035. But don't worry, because exemptions will safeguard those who might bear the brunt of this boiler revolution. Let's just turn our attention to the worrying set of proposals that allegedly loomed on the horizon. Apparently they included government intrusion into your car's passenger count, mandatory possession of 7 different bins, and dietary adjustments via meat taxes, and of course a brand new tax for anyone daring to travel or go on holiday. It just seems absolutely mental, doesn't it? But hold on to your steering wheels, folks, because these ideas were so radical that probably not even the Labour Party had ventured into such territories, let alone the government. It's akin to suggesting we all commute to work on unicycles, believing that they would magically solve our traffic congestion problems, isn't it? Here's the thing, Rishi apparently also gave assurance that the UK would still meet its international climate change obligations. And of course, I don't know about you, but I for one am getting sick and tired with all this green agenda crap. But of course, with a straight face, he declared that the UK is still so far ahead of other nations in cutting greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, as the critics sharpen their pens and the political foes circle like vultures, the fate of these greenhouse policies hangs in the balance, doesn't it? Some perceive this as a calculated move to save face, while others tremble at the impending repercussions for businesses and the climate. But in my opinion, surely not forcing so many rules on them would actually be a good thing for business. But who knows, I could be wrong. I personally think it's good they delayed the ban, because it'll probably end up needlessly costing the public a lot more otherwise. And of course, people shouldn't actually feel pressured to switching over with deadlines, and should actually be able to do so in their own time. I'm guessing all this net zero green agenda stuff is probably going to be a pain for more people than the government might actually think. And if he's delayed the scrapping of petrol and diesel cars, I myself think that it could actually be pushed back a lot further, and maybe all this net zero crap could stop completely. It also kind of makes me wonder if this was a potential trap for Keir Starmer for next year's general election, and to be honest, if it was, I think he's definitely fallen for it, because apparently he's announced that he's actually going to stick with the 2030 deadline on banning new petrol and diesel cars, which I'm guessing the majority of the public, who obviously own petrol and diesel cars, probably won't be too happy about. So therefore, if anything, that has more than likely cost Keir Starmer any hope of winning the election at all, if he sticks with that pledge. Which is good, really, because to be honest, I just don't really like the thought of Keir Starmer being in number 10 at all. And of course, running the country with all his loony policies. I mean, how soon would it actually be before we end up with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit? Just like the Welsh First Minister, Mark Drakeford, has apparently rolled out through Wales. But anyway, the article says that senior figures who have backed the Prime Minister include predecessor Liz Truss, who said, "I welcome the delay on banning the sale of new petrol and diesel cars, as well as the delay on the ban of oil and gas boilers. This is particularly important for rural areas." However, Boris Johnson, who Miss Truss briefly took over from in Downing Street, said that the U-turns would cause uncertainty for businesses, adding, "We cannot afford to falter now, or in any way lose our ambition for this country." Mr Johnson's ally, prominent Tory environmentalist Lord Zach Goldsmith, went as far as to demand a general election over the economy and an ecologically illiterate decision. The UK's commitment to reach the net zero by 2050 was written into law apparently in 2019, and climate scientists say that urgent cuts are needed to the world's greenhouse gas emissions if we are going to stop temperatures rising to a potentially catastrophic event. Well, Keir Starmer to me is like that character who claims that he's reformed but keeps getting caught trying to take biscuits from the biscuit barrel when no one's looking. Because, here we are post-Brexit, and what do we have on our hands? France and Germany, the dynamic duo apparently of the EU, are proposing this associate member status for the UK. They've even designed a 4-tiered system to make it all sound official. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for international relations, but certainly not being a member of the EU again or anything like it. And this feels like inviting your ex to be, associate member in your book club or something like that. I mean, you broke up for a reason, didn't you? And the idea that the UK could actually join this outer tier, paying into the EU's budget and having the European Court of Justice peering over its shoulder, all in exchange for a single market pass, is just absolutely out of order in my opinion. It's like saying, sure, you can come to the party, but you have to wear that silly hat and dance the Macarena and pay for your snacks. And not surprisingly, Tory MPs are up in arms, and rightly so. They're looking at Sir Keir Starmer with suspicion, as if he's the kid who keeps stealing their lunch money. They're saying he backed Remain, he wanted a second referendum, and now he wants this associate member idea. He probably dreams of Brussels at night, I'm guessing. David Jones, one of these MPs, is not mincing his words at all, and he pointed out that this would mean that the UK giving up its sovereignty and shelling out money just to play in the EU's sandbox. He's saying, we got our sovereignty back, folks. Let's not give it up for getting some sauerkraut. And then there's Mark Francois, chair of the European Research Group, who's looking at Sir Keir and saying, once a Remainer, always a Remainer. It's like accusing somebody of secretly binge-watching episodes of their favourite TV show when they claim to have moved on. And I personally think he's right. And now, of course, Labour is trying to douse the flames of suspicions. They're, of course, saying things like, we won't seek any form of membership, promise. We just want a better deal for Britain. It's like when someone says, I don't want dessert, but then seeks a spoonful of your cheesecake, isn't it? Sir Keir Starmer himself apparently is promising a much better Brexit deal with Brussels, but he swears he won't drag Britain back into the single market or customs union. It's like saying, I'll date you, but I won't make it Facebook official. And in my opinion, it shows they don't care at all about anything like our democracy if they want to go against the Brexit vote. And before anyone says anything like, oh really, well we're not going to rejoin the EU, are we? Oh, I hate the smug one. Well, I'm sorry, but an associate member doesn't really seem like Brexit to me, and how long will it actually be before they try and move even closer than that? It just seems to be an insult to our intelligence, in my opinion, to suggest that this is not an attempt to overturn Brexit. And to be honest, it is a shame that we didn't diverge more from the EU and try to do things our own way, which is not only one of the main opportunities of Brexit, but it would also made it harder for something like this to even happen in the first place. But of course, with things like Wishy's Windsor framework turd, which actually I'm guessing he's trying to polish at the moment, does nothing but actually shackle us to the EU, in my opinion. And therefore, if anything, that seems a very strange move for someone who says he's a Brexiteer to me. And in my opinion, he's much as of a Brexiteer as Ursula von der Leyen. But anyway, the article says that experts have warned his vision for a closer partnership with the EU would likely face challenges if he wins power. The report by Paris and Berlin was released yesterday as Sir Keir met French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris. It suggests 4 tiers of integration with the inner circle, comprised of countries who are in the Eurozone and Schengen area, followed by a second tier of remaining EU states. The outer third tier would be associate members who are not willing and/or able to join the EU in the foreseeable future. Remember that, foreseeable future, but it doesn't say not at all, does it? And I'm guessing that would make it more easier for them to do so, if and when that time would come. The fourth tier would apparently be the existing European political community, which the UK is already a part of, focusing on geopolitical convergence and political cooperation in areas such as climate policy, security and energy. Well, first things first, isn't it? It's kind of hard not to wonder why it took the government so long to extend this olive branch of compensation. I mean, really they should have scrutinised the evidence thoroughly before pointing fingers at hard-working postmasters. It's like watching someone accuse their dog of eating their homework, only to find their homework in their backpack months later. Oops, our bad, we didn't mean it, sorry. Now the government, of course, has miraculously offered a whopping £600,000 to the wronged postmasters. It's almost as if they're saying, sorry for the inconvenience of wrongful accusations, here's a hefty paycheck as a compensation prize. I mean, who wouldn't jump at the chance to bypass months of assessments and legal battles for a quick and easy £600,000? It's like the winner in the lottery ticket, isn't it, for the wrongly convicted? But just hold on a second, because there is unfortunately a catch. To claim this substantial sum, all you need to do is prove that your conviction was overturned. It's like saying, if you can convince us that we are utterly, completely wrong about your criminal mastermind abilities, we'll toss some cash your way. What a splendid opportunity! But, I just can't help but wonder how the government plans to recoup the cost of this generous offer. I mean, will Royal Mail raise the price of stamps or something like that and toss some of the government's way? It's like paying for a postage stamp and then secretly hoping it comes with a side of justice. That'll be £1.50 for the stamp and an additional 50p for the, Oops, Our Bad Fund. Of course, the Shadow Minister for Industry and Decarbonisation, Sarah Jones, asked if victims would be able to receive higher compensation if they opted for the full scheme, to which the business minister Kevin Hollandrake replied with a touch of dramatic flair, no sum would be high enough for what the prosecuted went through. It's like saying, sorry, but we can't put a price on the emotional rollercoaster of being wrongly accused and possibly imprisoned. But anyway, the article says just 86 postmasters have had their convictions overturned, though more are being encouraged to come forward. An interim report from the chair of the Post Office Horizon IT Inquiry, Sir Wyn Williams, in July set out recommendations on 3 schemes established by the Post Office and the government to compensate postmasters. Sir Wyn said the time period for making payments to postmasters who sued the Post Office, August next year, will not be achieved, as 550 claims would have been heard within 20 months. But anyway, whilst one bellend has apparently stopped with all this net zero rubbish, it's about time the other one does, and in this video you'll see that Sadiq Khan might actually be thinking the same thing, with the amount of ULEZ fines that are apparently being scrapped.